The February meeting of the Harnett County Board of Education is now in order. If everyone will please stand. And I'd like to ask Ms. Sharon Gainey if she'd lead us in prayer.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. Thank you for the sunshine, Lord. We thank you for the opportunity to represent the students of Harnett County Schools one more time. We ask as we meet tonight that you will be in the meeting. Bless us, Lord. Bless our hearts to receive. Lord, help us to understand and help us to not be judgmental and to be understanding of other people's comments as we make decisions on tonight. Help others to understand the decisions that we have to make, and what we do it for the glory of God. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. If you remain standing, Mr. John Hare, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and you may be seated. At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we amend our agenda for tonight with regards to 13F, the review and consider joint resolution by Harnett County Board of Commissioners and Harnett County Board of Education removing school buildings as voting sites, be removed from tonight's agenda and added to the March meeting as an action item.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. So further discussion.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Let's go do them individually.
We do. Okay.
We had moved the closed session up closer to the front. I'm sure you saw that from where we usually do it at the end in order to accommodate one of our attorneys. But that attorney has since asked that we move it to the end. So I'd like to request that we take item 3, the closed session, and move it down to the end of the action items. Let's see what number that would be. I guess that would become 13, so we would move 4 to 3, 5 to 4, so on.
Okay.
Also, would like to ask if we could remove B under the recognition. Number 2, special presentations, B, academic growth award presentation, and also have at the March meeting.
Yes, sir. Chair recognizes Attorney Duke.
Thank you. I think if I could request that we do them individually, I think it'd be cleaner if we do one amendment at a time. Also, if it fails or doesn't fail, then that'll change the numbering of an additional amendment. So I think it would be my preference if the board will handle this as discussion of the original proposal from Mr. Abate, and then once that's been voted on, move to any additional motions that may come forward.
Okay, fine. Thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second on the floor regarding the first item. Is there further discussion? Chairman votes aye.
Abate, aye.
Gainey, aye.
Here,
Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we change the closed session for number 3 and place it after action items, amending the agenda.
Okay. Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, the chairman votes aye.
Abate, aye.
Gainey, aye.
The motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, finally, I move that we amend the agenda, removing item 2B, academic growth award presentation, from tonight's agenda and placing it on the March agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there additional discussion? Chairman votes aye.
Abate, aye.
Gainey, aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Chairman votes aye.
Abate, aye.
Gainey, aye.
Here,
Motion carries. Okay. I was moving on to item 2, special presentations, and this is CTE month, Career and Technical Education, and we have one of the very best CTE departments in the state of North Carolina. So I'd like to recognize right now Ms. Lindsay Hardy, our CTE director.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairman Powell, members of the board and the cabinet. I'm Lindsay Hardy. I'm the Director of Career and Technical Education for Harnett County Schools. And I'm here tonight with my teammate Larry Clark to highlight some of the accomplishments of the CTE department thus far this school year. Thank you for giving us a few moments tonight. We are only going to take a few. We're both very passionate about CTE, so we could keep you here all night, but we won't do that. But we appreciate the opportunity to celebrate our dedicated teaching staff and support staff that prepares your future workforce. So we're going to begin with some performance data. In the class of 2024, we graduated 624 CTE concentrators. A CTE concentrator is a student who completes at least 2 CTE courses in the same pathway, with one of them being a completer level course. Most of the time, a completer level course is a level 2 course, but sometimes it could be a level 3 or 4 class in a sequence of classes. A CTE concentrator, as defined under Perkins 5, is part of our performance indicator. So CTE concentrators are very important in CTE when we collect data, and they show up in many different performance indicators that we do have to answer to both the Department of Public Instruction and the federal government for our funding. CTE concentrators most remarkably impact 1S1, our graduation rate, and 3S1, our post-secondary placement. We're proud to celebrate tonight that the class of 2024 CTE concentrator graduation rate was at 98%, compared to their peers, that is almost 10% less than that for the graduation rate of non-CTE concentrators. We currently serve nearly 12,000 students in grades 6 through 12. However, we're funded to support grades 8 through 12. The North Carolina Association for Career and Technical Education continues to lobby for funding for grades 6 and 7 for CTE. So we make it work because it's very important to begin the career awareness and exploration at the earliest age possible. And we're very thankful to our board and our leaders in our district for allowing us to serve as low as even 5th grade in Harnett County. I know these pie charts are very hard to see, so I will also share with you, I scheduled an email to go to the board's inbox tonight around 6 o'clock that has the slide deck in it, so feel free to zoom in or to check out any of the things that are hyperlinked in our presentation tonight if you want to explore further. The highest percentage of concentrators per cluster in Harnett County Schools is in the areas of agriculture, trades, and health sciences, and that exactly mimics our highest enrolled program areas in Harnett County. So it's no surprise we have the highest number of concentrators in the areas that we have highest enrollment. And then the pie on the right is taken from the North Carolina Department of Commerce data and analysis tool, and it shows you the 10-year labor outlook projections for the North Central region. And if you look carefully, our percentages of concentrators very closely match the 10-year projections for our labor market. We do have some areas to work in, and we're actively working to increase enrollment and opportunities in those clusters to meet the labor demands. A high-quality CTE program includes labor market alignment. That's very important. And now I will share some highlights. We'll start with our high schools. The greatest highlight that we have currently is the growth and the success of our CTSOs. In CTE, we have a lot of acronyms. So for those who are unfamiliar, a CTSO is a career and technical student organization. We have state and nationally competitive CTSOs that we're very proud of and continue to charter new chapters and expand into middle schools. CTSOs ensure our students are career ready and globally competitive. I myself was a CTSO advisor, as well as Mr. Clark, and I wore a blue jacket just like that for 4 years. I will share one highlight from the 3 bullets for each school for the sake of time. It's going in the wrong direction, Jennifer. It's probably user error, by the way. We're pleased to share that the Harnett Central Fire Academy will compete at the State Skills USA Conference for the 2nd year in a row. We're pleased to share that the Overhills High School Young Entrepreneurship Fairs will be in their third, they will run for the third time this semester. Previously, we did one last year and one in the fall semester, and that's where students showcase their small businesses. It's very cool to see if you've not seen that. At Triton High School, their automotive program earned the ASE, Automotive Service Excellence Accreditation. And at Western Harnett, their healthcare career labs hosted a best program showcase for the state. Overhills Middle reactivated their FBLA chapter this year, and we have kicked off our 7th grade and 8th grade career awareness and 8th grade tours initiatives to align with high school registration periods. And we do that in partnership with Student Services. I'm very excited to share that April 14th through the 16th, we will host the 4th Build Harnett, and this year we'll add a plumbing competition. We've expanded that opportunity to 75 students who will compete over a series of 3 days in construction trades, and the end result is getting them excited and connected into the labor market for construction. So we have a carpentry event, an electrical event, and now a plumbing event. So please come out to that if you have an opportunity to. It will be held at CCCC in Lillington again. And then finally, I'm pleased to share Harnett County Schools was 6th in the state and 1st in our affinity group in CT credentials earned by students for the 2023-2024 school year. I will now turn the podium over to my colleague Larry Clark, who will expand on that accomplishment.
Good evening. So as far as credentials, in the latest Perkins funding, one of the very first things that they talked about were concentrators and also students who are walking away from our schools with an added value to their diplomas being credentials. Harnett County has done an excellent job over the past decade or so with credentials, and this is just the report that is very public focused. And on the right, there is a hyperlink as you look into the actual presentation where you can go in and see this report yourself and see where Harnett County can compare to other districts. But I will tell you that, Lindsay talked about us being number 6 in the state. That is a much bigger accomplishment than she's really leading. We're actually the 18th largest district in the state by student population. And, from 18, we're actually number 6. And it's not a one and done thing. Last year, we were number 6. In prior years, we were as high up as number 3. So, credentials and letting our students leave us with something in addition to their diploma has been a main focus of our CT department. And one of the things that I've focused on for many years in Harnett County, and I'm just coming back from Wake County, the same exact thing. So, as we go through that, you can kind of see in this chart, the 2020-21 year, we had, kind of a record low for credentials. There was this little thing called a pandemic. COVID kept us from having students in the classroom. But as we came out of the pandemic, you'll see that it has grown every year. We expect the students in Harnett County for this year to be over 10,000. I'm probably going under on that. We're thinking maybe 11,000 is the number that we're potentially going to reach this year for our students to leave us with something that's added to their diploma. Kind of looking at the class of 2025, if you look at the average student, 67% of our seniors that are sitting in classrooms right now are going to leave us with some value add, some industry recognized credential as they go into the workforce. In total, we've got 5,576 total credentials for that class as of the fall of 2024, and we actually have another semester that will increase. So for every student that earned at least one credential, they're leaving us with about 6.42. So they are leaving us with more than 6 credentials each. Now, if you have ever, I was a business teacher, and one of the things that I taught students was how to create a resume. And, the most frustrating thing for me was their resume looked like this. It was plain. They had nothing on it. So in CTE, we are able to give them these credentials that they can leave with. Now, I could sit here and I could talk about the 110 different credentials that we offer in all of our classes and, the things that they could leave with it. But I want to tell you just a couple of stories, if you don't mind. As a classroom teacher, I love telling stories, and I still do that today. As I was sitting in my office several years ago, we have to contact our students to find out what they're doing after they leave us. And, Lindsay brought over a concentrator report and smiled as she handed it to me. And it basically said, this student said that the electrical trades credential that they earned in high school got them an apprenticeship with Star Electric, and also because they had gotten an OSHA 10 certification, they got $2 more per hour. Great value. So a year or two ago, I was talking to a representative from Star Electric, and I asked, how is that student doing today? This gentleman smiled just as big as he could and told me how wonderful this student was doing. Now, not a great student. He was he graduated, but it was just barely. He hated school, never wanted to come, but Dan Hoover at Triton High School showed him what he could do with electrical trades as he leaves us. Now, if you've heard any reports about the trades in general, it is hard to get our students to go into those. So if we don't show them those early as, they're in our programs, they're not going to want to do that. In Harnett County, all 4 schools have multiple trades. We are really showing students a way that they can earn a living as they leave us. Second story, has anyone ever walked into a restaurant and seen a Serve Safe certification? If you don't see it, my suggestion is to turn around and walk away, because they're required to have that in order to really begin business. If you don't have it, it's a -2 points as you walk in. So we had a student that was working at Taco Bell, and she was a junior. So she earned her ServSafe food manager certification, got $4 extra per hour, and she was able to be an assistant manager as a junior. So again, we're helping students move forward in their careers even before they leave us. Now, in CTE, that certification costs us about $38. It took about 10 hours for us to earn that back. We're not earning it, the student is, but at the same time, the same job is giving her more money because of that industry recognized credential. Last one, they can really make a difference in the lives of our students. We had a student that his mother was in healthcare. I don't know if she was a nurse or what, but she was just getting her CPR certification. Son was doing it at the exact same time. And they were talking about it and just going through everything that they were doing. A couple of weeks later, son cut his hand, went to mom. Mom saw the blood, passed out, hit her head. Her heart stopped. It was just son and mother. CPR saved mother's life. I had a letter from mom to the teacher thanking her for changing that family's life. So, we really are giving students something that they can walk away with. As my last little thing, we are so proud of the teachers and students in CTE in Harnett County. I would love for board members, cabinet, if you ever want to come out to schools to see what our teachers are doing, we would love to have you there. If you'll contact Ms. Hardy, it is something that we are so proud to show what our folks are doing. She mentioned Build Harnett. Please come to see us. We love to show off what they're doing. Thanks for your time. You have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Clark and Ms. Hardy. We greatly appreciate all your hard work on behalf of our students. I know we've had a lot of success stories out of our CTE program. I'm sure we have many more to come thanks to your hard work. And everywhere I go throughout the county, whether it's at our high schools or even our middle schools, I hear a lot of good things at each one about our CTE. So thank you for your hard work, and let's keep up the good work. Thank you. Okay, it's now time for public comments. And each month, a part of at least one regularly scheduled board meeting will be set aside for citizens to address the board through public comment. A sign-up sheet will be available for any individual or group to indicate their desire to address the board. The chairman will decide the amount of time devoted to public comments. the superintendent shall develop additional procedures to ensure that public comment sessions proceed in an efficient and orderly manner. Board members will not respond to individuals who address the board except to request clarification of points made by the presenter. Except in cases of emergency, information received during presentations will not be acted upon at the time it is received. It will take unanimous vote of the board members present to take action on a presentation considered to be of an unusual or emergency nature at the time of its presentation. Disruptions by any person or persons of a public meeting will be subject to action in accordance with General Statute 143, 318, 17. If the board does not hold a regular meeting during a month, the board will not provide a time for public comment at any other meeting held during that month unless a majority of the board votes to allow public comment at the meeting or unless the purpose of the meeting is a public hearing. And we do have several signed up. We do have 30 minutes, 3 minutes apiece, but I'd like to ask if any of you could hold it below 3 minutes, hopefully to get everybody signed up a chance to speak within the parameters of the 30 minutes. All right, our first name is Mr. Lewis Bell with the Board of Education. So, Mr. Bell, if you come forward, if you and your following speakers would present your name and also tell us where you're from, what part of the county you're from.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Lewis Bell, and I'm a lifelong resident of Harnett County, and I can say it's good to see and hear the progress that the school's making with CTE, because me and board member Gainey back in the day we started, and so it's really good to see the progress it's made. Also, I want to commend you on the renovation and the transformation of this wonderful building. It's very professional, state-of-the-art, and so I know you're enjoying it. But what I'm here tonight for is to talk about a department that receives little support as far as accommodation, how we carry out one of the most vital functions of this county, the Harnett County Board of Elections. And I'm here to be blank to in opposition of the previous partisan proposed resolution to the General Assembly about taking voters out of school, early voting. And I'm here to say also, ladies and gentlemen, that we have very little choices as where we hold and conduct the business of running an election. And because of our efficiency in the way we work, the men and women that are dedicated in seeing that our elections are free, fair, and they're carried out, if we didn't have that, the elected official couldn't be here. There would be mass confusion, but we pull off our elections very professionally without any hitch. And we just finished the historic, the biggest election in the history of this county, and no incidents. So the schools, but 2 schools that we use for early voting, these schools are essential to what we do. Of course, the General Assembly in the Constitution of North Carolina gives us the right, authority to request and use, and even right down to demand, which we won't get to that point, but we have nowhere else to go. It is constitutional that we can use any public facility, and I'm looking at the resolution, and I didn't see any input from the county commissioners or this board as to what the alternatives are. I'm sure the board will be open to maybe purchase us some land and get our own building so we wouldn't have to be in schools. But I'm sure that's probably far-fetched. But this is so vital to us, and I can't stress that enough. It seems like the Board of Elections, the priority of having us somewhere to go, it's kind of low on the list, and it has been that way. But, and you need the Board of Elections when you need it. Then when we're done, okay, that's it. And we had to get a public campaign to let folks know we work more than just on election days. There's things that go on year-round. It's the year-round attachment that we're assigned to. And I just want to also say that in my years of voting, I've been about 50 years, we've used schools without incidents. any major incidents, I should say. And the school safety is of the utmost to us as well. My children and grandchildren were educated in the Harnett County school system, and I have a special heart because that's where this is my home. This is where I received my education through the Harnett County school system. So we want to do what's right and offer the best possible atmosphere for our Board of Election workers, poll workers, the judges, and we need your help. We need your help. And so I ask you, if you will, please cease and desist this partisan joint resolution and work with us. And we're more than happy to sit down at the table with us and figure out something. If there's a real concern about safety for our children, which is I wish to say. So just work with us.
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
Thank you very
Time's
much.
expired, but thank you. Okay, next we have is Donya Jerido.
Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Superintendent Matthews, this question is for you. I have expressed to the board the concerns I've had for the safety at Irwin Elementary School, and I wanted to know if you had a plan in place to enforce not being able to get in and out. I've also told you guys that I had videos showing that people are going in and coming out of all the doors back there, and they still remain to do so. I myself has walked through your whole school again, through those same doors. And you would think that with the rate of gunmen getting into schools and stuff like that, it should not be that easy to enter. I've said this plenty of times, that I go there, I drop off my granddaughter, and I park and video. And it continually happens every single day, week after week, month after month. So I need to know, what is the plan that you're gonna have to ensure the safety of these kids? There gotta be a plan. It's too easy to get in. That's all I have to say.
Yes, sir. Chair recognizes Mr. Matthews.
What school did you say, Ms. Jerido?
Irwin
Irwin. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have Ms. Dana Vasquez.
Good evening, Dana Vasquez from the Anderson Creek area. I wanted to also comment on what Mr. Bell had mentioned earlier. I know that you've postponed the discussion about using the schools for voting. I also have concerns for the extended period that early voting has on, and that impact on the schools. So I do agree that we do need to look at something else for the early voting sites, but to completely put us out of the schools, I think puts us in a bind, particularly in the western part of the county, where we do have limited facilities and a huge volume of voters. Just in this last election, there were multiple days, even using Western Harnett High School, 3-hour waits for voters on the first day of voting, on the election day, and as well as the last day of voting. So I know the Board of Elections is looking at alternatives and trying to find some other ways to accommodate our voters, but the schools, I think, are very important, particularly on election day, and I hope that you'll reconsider that in regard to that. And secondly, I'd like to just speak about the fact that next year is 2026, and I'm not sure school-wise as well as county-wise what is being done to prepare to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our country. And I just know that the state our country is in, our students absolutely need to be educated on the groundings of our country and the constitutional rights that they have, as well as I know all of you took an oath for your office, and just to have them understand what does that oath mean as they come forward. So I look forward to hearing how the schools as well as the county is going to address that important event in our country. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Mr. Roger Farina.
Hello, Roger Farina Barbecue. I love Harnett County Schools. My girls started here, went all the way through. My oldest graduated Campbell with a math degree. My middle daughter just graduated NC State last month with a degree in fish and environmental studies. And my little one is a 3 semesters away from graduating with an anthropology degree from NC State. So thank you so much to everybody, Harnett County Schools. I'm up here also to talk about the elections. There are 2,700 voting locations in North Carolina. Barbecue Precinct, with no incorporated town or city, was third overall in the entire state of people going out to vote and early voting. And that's just entirely too many people. Third in the entire state, mostly going to our high school, disrupting those kids' education and schools days during early voting. It's not fair to have 15,000 people vote at one location and a few thousands at another. Hour-long wait at Western Harnett High School at one point, upwards of 3 hours, even after 17 days of early voting. If a precinct gets a recount, it causes disproportionate workload in precincts. Any change that we come up with could be, if there's 1,000 registered voters in Harnett County, maybe make 25 polling locations and make the number 4,000 per each polling location, so it's even across the board. I've been at the polling location since 2004, mostly at Western Harnett High School. There have been times where there have been situations at the schools between the adults involved in the process and students, especially during dismissal times and sports time, too, including vandalization of cars and items that are out there. It disrupts our schools by taking up the gym and other space. Also, if we had different locations for early voting and regular voting, there has to be better communication to notify the people of correct polling locations, because what we saw out there were people going to the wrong place. Lastly, adding locations and shortening early voting could alleviate, and having voting while school is not in session is a good idea, such as having voting at the high school during election day. So thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Angie Collins.
Hi, good evening. Angie Collins. I live at 5821 NC 210. I live right sort of beside the primary school. I've been in Harnett County for about 26 years. I sent my son through all 12 years of the Harnett County school system, so I am familiar with it too. And I've also been involved in politics, and I've worked the polls. I've been inside and outside of the schools. I've been at Western Harnett, Andrew Elementary, Irwin, the election office during voting times, greeting and doing inside poll watching, outside poll watching. And during those times, I guess since about 2016, I've been involved, and I've never seen any incidents occur. I don't know, what specifics we were being referred to. Most of the problems, though, any problems that arose seemed to be between, poll workers or, the opposite parties. So I really would like you to think seriously about banning schools from being voting sites. Like the people have mentioned about Western Harnett, there's a huge population, there's a limited amount of facilities that could accommodate voters, especially when you think about the handicapped people, the curbside voting, the, just the rush of people coming in on election day. The public schools can handle the traffic. They can handle the people, the handicap, and all of the needs of the election. I also would like to remind us that the Board of Elections exists to work on these problems, to make these kind of decisions. And I kind of feel like the county commissioners and the Board of Education have kind of usurped the Board of Elections. And I think that the things that they have to say are very important. And if there is a problem with the school systems having, problems with polling, with voting, then that seems like that would have come before the Board of Elections at some point in time. And as far as I understand, there have been no such documentations made. So it seems like to me that we're addressing a problem that doesn't really exist. I know that they say, well, we have to take preemptive steps. Well, what steps have been taken so far? These school shootings have been going on for a long time, and I don't know of any solid steps that were made to address that issue in particular. There's a lot of things to keep our children safe. These drug problems, gang problems. You're talking about educating kids in different skills and trades. And being able to come out of high school and work. Well, they also need to be able to come out of high school and see the importance of voting and being a member of the community, the voting community.
And next we have Claire Jones.
Good afternoon. Sorry, Brooks, you get to hear it again. So thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Claire Jones. I am the director of the Harnett County Board of Elections office. And I understand the topic of using schools as voting precincts has raised concerns. And I would like to take a few minutes to explain why removing schools as an option would be detrimental to the voters and election logistics. First, I want to acknowledge that schools may not be the ideal venue for every election. They come with challenges, however, they are at times the best option available, especially in our larger districts where we need spaces that can accommodate a large number of voters and the logistics of our election process. Schools are typically centrally located, accessible, and importantly, able to handle large volumes of people on Election Day. These are public buildings that on Election Day are closed for instruction, which reduces the conflict with regular school activities. Eliminating schools as a voting location would severely limit our options for handling the number of voters we expect. Unlike other public spaces, schools offer a blend of large rooms, ample parking, and sufficient space for curbside voting, which is essential for voters with disabilities who are unable to enter the building. While other venues may be considered, many simply do not have the same capacity or accessibility, potentially resulting in the long lines, limited parking, challenges that can discourage voter participation. One potential solution that I would like to propose as a compromise is to remove schools as early voting sites while allowing them to function as polling places on Election Day. This would give us the ability to maintain the use of these buildings during high-trafficked election while also ensuring the safety and security concerns are addressed by limiting the disruption schools face throughout the week. By removing schools as early voting sites, we can address concerns about security, school operations, potential conflicts, while still keeping them available as efficient and accessible voting locations on Election Day. Ultimately, the goal is to ensure that all voters have an opportunity to vote easily, safely, and without unnecessary barriers. If we remove schools entirely from the list of voting precincts, we would face the challenge of securing alternative locations that simply may not be able to handle the same volume of voters or offer the same level of accessibility. In conclusion, while I understand and respect the concerns that have led to this conversation, I urge you to consider that schools, though not perfect, remain one of our best options for ensuring accessibility and efficiency on Election Day. I believe that a compromise such as removing them as early voting sites but maintaining their use on Election Day could address safety concerns while still supporting the needs of the voters. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Okay, I want to have Rebecca Brock.
Good evening, Commissioners, Superintendent, and staff. I have a few areas. One is procedural concerns. One is I'm wondering if you can post the agenda 48 hours before the meeting. It was posted between 8 and 9 this morning, and the Board of Commissioners posts their agenda early, and I've asked the same of the Board of Elections, so that it could be consistent with UNC school governance open meeting laws, which requests a 48-hour posting. Also, the change in the meeting format has put the closed session at the beginning of the meeting, and I was wondering if that is something that you could address as to why you've put the closed session at the very beginning, because it started when you became superintendent. Maybe a very good reason, but I was just wondering what it is. I have a current day concern. I hear there's about 2,000 students in your ESL program and that it's growing. That you have 3 languages at a very minimum, the Spanish, the Arabic, and the Vietnamese spoken, and that there's 21 Hispanic countries represented in your ESL program. The status of ESL students' citizenship isn't part of attending schools. And I'm wondering if the Harnett County School System and the board has a stated policies for the principals to follow if ICE were to show up at their doors. So it hasn't been on the agenda. I'm wondering if it's going to be discussed, if you're providing guidance to the principals in case ICE does show up. Given this growing population, I'm wondering if you've considered to have ESLs in a separate school, such as a welcome school, that gives them the opportunity 3 to 6 more months or whatever it takes before they're integrated with the general population at the schools. Lastly, I would like to register, I disagree with the ban on voting in schools. I think it's the purview of the Board of Election and not the Board of Commissioners or the Board of Education. Thank you.
Next, we have Richard Chapman.
Richard Chapman, 5220 Christian Light Road, same address as her. This morning, I addressed the Harnett County Commission regarding the joint resolution that you're considering tonight. I told the commission I did not believe the county had made its case for stripping the Board of Elections of its authority to use schools as voting sites. And I urged the board to withdraw the proposal and justify the measure with facts, testimony, and law. Tonight, I ask that the school board do the same thing. Or if nothing else, defer considering the measure until after the county commission has addressed it next week. The end result of the proposed resolution may be positive, but the process by which it is being promoted is flawed. The measure lacks substantiation and does not address alternatives, including the proposal that Claire Jones just expressed and that she suggested to the County Commission this morning. At the very least, I think you should meet with Ms. Jones and the members of the Board of Elections before adopting what some might suggest is a power grab. I have not read the pertinent statutes, so I have no opinion about that, but I do know a resolution without foundation when I see one, and this resolution appears to be that. There's no reason to rush this along and no reason not to consider alternatives. The school board is not a rubber stamp of the county commission. It has an independent duty to make decisions that are sound ideas, make a persuasive case, rebut alternatives, and establish consensus. That's the legislative process, and this resolution is part of that process. I ask you to do the right thing in the right way, according to your own rules and regulations. Thank you.
Okay, Jerry Rivas.
Yes, Jerry Rivas. I don't think my address is relevant. Y'all ain't gonna come to visit me. I got enough friends. This morning at the county commission meeting, it was disheartening to hear a couple of the commissioners talking about their reason for taking schools away as polling places, their primary concern was the safety of the students. The one commissioner who brought that up was a police officer for 30 years who left 3 different departments in disgrace because he was sued for police brutality. I think it's ludicrous for him to pretend that he's concerned with the safety of the students. What about the 2 school resource officers in the last 2 years that were either fired or indicted for inappropriate sexual relationships with students? Now, school safety, I have 11 grandchildren, currently 10 of them in school. 1 graduated in 2022. 3 of them go to Highland Elementary School. There's something like 30 temporary huts behind that school. There are no bathroom facilities in those temporary huts that have been erected since that school was built new. When a child has to go to the bathroom, they have to leave that hut and walk a good distance to the building, and the door is unsecured. We have school resource officers that spend most of their day in the office flirting with the office ladies. Come on, you're worried about 17 days of early voting? What about the other 163 days of the school year? What makes you think that some nut job is going to wait? Ooh, it's early voting. I'll go shoot up the school. Why wouldn't they do it on Valentine's Day or Columbus Day or April Fool's Day? Polling places is not the bailiwick of the county commissioners, and they need to butt out and stay out of it. Chairman Nickel said, oh, there's always the YMCA. I think that's pretty bold of him to put that forth. Did he ask the YMCA? Has anybody gone and talked to them? No. I remember this morning I mistakenly said it was Flat Branch Fire Department, but I remember before Western Harnett, we used to vote at the barbecue fire department. I can remember seeing cars getting stuck in the ditch there, sliding down the embankment, lines waiting in the pouring rain to get in, no parking. I mean, you know, why are you, it seems like you guys, for some reason, are trying to hinder the voters. Butt out. There's bigger problems in Harnett County. You still got school resource officers who aren't wearing body cameras.
Okay, your time's expired. Thank you. Okay, next we have Tony Spears.
That is rough to come up behind Revis,
It's not-
but he did say something that made me feel pretty good. Tony Spears, 1334 McLean Chapel Church Road, Bun Level, North Carolina. The dividing line between Western and Harnett Central. You stay on this side, you come to Harnett Central. You stay on the other side, you go to Western. For all my time, I hated coming to Harnett Central because I felt like I was being bused. It was closer for me to go to South Harnett or either Anderson Creek that way than to come all the way across town. But when I became a bus driver, it made me feel good because I had then the longest bus route. So I missed first and seventh period. Really made me mad to miss seventh period because I missed all the pep rallies. I knew I was at a position that I could make everybody feel like, bro, we can do it, we can do it. But somebody blackballed me and got me out of there. Main reason, we all thought we was going to be talking about the coming out of the schools. I've always said that we need to vote where we need to vote. And to come out of schools, when I was on the Board of Elections, I was basically the only board member that went to every polling site, every meeting, to see. State says don't really want the board members doing that now. I guess not, because they can't see what the needs are if you stay home and you're just waiting for somebody to tell you, because it's easy to say, I was not aware. So yes, I'm the one that almost got hit at Western Harnett when I stepped out to try to stop a truck that was coming through, which the lady was blindsided, couldn't see because the activity bus was still stuck on the corner. And that person was an assistant principal in a wheelchair. And I said, let me call Uriah right now, because I want these buses moved. He came and moved them. And she says, do you know him? Tell him I'm gonna give him a biscuit. I said, you don't need no more biscuits. But the thing about it, if you're there and you're part of it, that's why you're so adamant to understand what's going on. I've always had those buses moved, but they was put back. So I don't understand it. I have no problem. I'm always for what's right. It's not political for me, it's for the people. And when you start doing that, you'll be a much better person. But just to throw stuff on the wall, just to be throwing to see what will stick, it's not gonna work no more. We're sick and tired of this, y'all. We're really sick and tired of it.
Okay, moving along now to, that concludes our public comments, and we'll now move along to our superintendent update. Mr. Matthews.
Thank you, Chairman Powell and members of the board. I just wanted to begin by letting you know that we do have an empty chair over where Ms. Ferguson usually sits. Her father had some medical issues last night, and she's been in the hospital with him all day. So if you will, keep her in your thoughts and prayers, and her father as well. Of course, we had our first little bout, well, maybe not first, but a little bout with winter weather last year. We had 2 days that we declared as asynchronous remote learning days. The state allows us to have up to 5 remote days if needed, so we have 3 of those that are still banked in case we have any more inclement weather, and our instructional hours are still in good shape. So hopefully, if we don't have any other emergencies or tragedy to come along, we'll be good with our instructional hours by throughout the rest of this school year. I also wanted to remind you about the April 7th board meeting date. I think Ms. Johnson did send you an email to, we had tried to find a date that would work for everyone for our principal interviews for Ben Haven, and it was difficult to find a date that worked for everybody. So if you would, just plan to come at 4 o'clock on the 7th, which would be the day of our April board meeting. We'll have our principal interviews prior to the April board meeting. I also would like to congratulate Chairman Powell, who'll be celebrating a birthday this month, I understand, February 28th, I believe.
Yes, sir.
And
Thank you.
so we just want to wish you a happy birthday, and unless you have some questions for me, that's all I have for this evening.
Further questions from Mr. Matthews? Okay, thank you, Mr. Matthews. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Point of information, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr.
I
McNutt.
was here at 5 PM, and I was the first to sign the sign-up sheet. And I have several documents that I want to submit to the board members. I've already given it to your clerk, and I'd like to have 3 minutes.
Was there another sign-up sheet or something? Because you're not on, I double check, triple check. The board will recognize Mr. Bill McNutt for a period not to exceed 3 minutes.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Would you be kind enough to distribute those documents?
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. My name is Bill McNutt. I live in Anderson Creek. I'm a board member of Harnett County Board of Elections. In the documents that I'm submitting to you today, I'm highlighting 2 articles in the North Carolina State Constitution and 4 statutes that all apply to what we're discussing. I think we should, number 1, follow the law first. That's our guideline. And I'm not going to read through them because you can read them yourself. But I will point out, focusing on the current situation, we use 2 schools for early voting. Early voting consists currently of 17 days. Election day shouldn't be an issue because the schools are closed. The legislature, I believe, will be seeking a reduction in early voting from 17 days to 1 week. Whether that's going to happen or not, I have no idea. But there are multiple solutions to consider. We've heard a lot of them tonight. We have an existing statute that I want you to read carefully It's the last one that I cite, and that's 163-166.35, sites and hours for early voting. In that instance, it's set up that the Board of Elections contacts the facility that is taxpayer funded, whether it's a school or a business or whatever, and 90 days before the start of early voting. And at that time, they set out in detail what's going to be required, time-wise, location-wise, portion of the building that'll be used, et cetera. The governing board of that institute, whatever it might be, has 20 days to respond to that request. If in fact they don't respond, the plan is confirmed. If they do respond and the reply is in the negative, this is what it says in the statute, folks. The governing entity and the Board of Elections, and in caps, shall, in good faith, work to identify a building in which to conduct early voting. That's pretty clear. It's not equivocal. It's clear. If no agreement within 45 days is agreed upon, the matter will be resolved by the State Board of Elections. So on the basis of the statutes and the references that I've given you, I would respectfully request that the joint resolution be tabled or withdrawn and allow the existing boards to work together as the statute requires. We certainly can do that. The Board of Elections, as a matter of fact, is having its meeting tomorrow on this subject. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. McNutt. Okay, moving along to auxiliary services update, and that would be Mr. Pearson.
Thank you, Chairman Powell, members of the board. Just a couple of quick updates for you. Lillington Shawtown Gym project is moving along well. They have dug the footers. The block work should begin pretty soon. They are on track to hopefully have that space available to them as we begin next school year, so I know they're excited over there. Bid opening for Flatwoods Middle School is slated for February 13th with a rebid on February 20th, which keeps us on track on our timeline with Flatwoods Middle School, and we should have some firmer budget numbers by the time we get together back for our next meeting. We also have projects ongoing at Western Harnett High School and Western Harnett Middle School to update cabling and network infrastructure. And just to keep the board in the loop, about every 5 to 6 years, we'll end up cycling through all of our buildings to bring them up to speed with cabling and networks. Want to take a minute and recognize specifically 2 of the departments that I oversee. We've seen many articles and news stories over the last several months of school districts that are in the negatives in financials in certain departments and districts. And our school nutrition department has done a fantastic job over the years keeping themselves in a great financial position and in such a way that we are exploring opportunities to benefit more kids because of their responsibility. So I appreciate Ms. Brown and her leadership there, and as well Ms. Bird and her leadership with a lot of our E-rate programs. Our technology is really top-notch compared to others around us, and we've done that through proper and strategic use of available funds through E-rate and not had to dip into a lot of other places. So I appreciate both of those folks and their leadership there that has kept some other challenges off of our plate that maybe some other folks are facing. As I mentioned, last month, school safety meetings have begun. I'm meeting with each principal individually to discuss a number of school safety issues that they're dealing with, as well as emergency planning. And then on the athletics front, winter sports, believe it or not, are wrapping up. We did have a handful of swimmers, 2 individuals in a relay team from Harnett Central qualify for the state swim meet. We have basketball will wrap up next week with the playoffs beginning. And believe it or not, spring sports begins Monday. So we have women's soccer, men's tennis, baseball, softball, and track that will hopefully get a little bit of warm weather, but there's always some cold days when you start spring sports, even though it is February still. So if you have any questions, I will certainly answer them, but otherwise that concludes my report.
Other questions for Mr. Pearson? Okay. I have one, Mr. Pearson. Are there any updates? Last time you alluded to the new conferences as far as the North Carolina High School Athletic Association going from 1A through 4A up to 8A, I believe.
Yes,
Is
sir.
there any updates on that as
So,
far as our Harnett
yes.
County schools are concerned?
Draft number 2 came out. The only change was that 2 additional schools were added to the 6A conference of South Johnston and West Johnston were added in with our Triton, Harnett, Central Western. Overhill does still remain in a larger conference, which is mostly playing kind of south and east. But this, again, that was draft number 2, so they can again submit their request and continue through that process.
Okay. Well, I like the idea personally of West and South Johnston coming into that conference because they're local, good rivals. We have a lot of rivalries established, particularly Triton and Harnett Central.
Yes, sir.
That area. But would like, if we could keep working on Overhill.
Yes,
See
sir.
if we can get that a little closer by.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, as Mr. Matthews said earlier, Ms. Ferguson was unable to be with us tonight, but in her place, we have her capable right-hand assistant, Ms. Dana Stevens. So, Ms. Stevens with curriculum and instruction.
Certainly. Good evening, Chairman Powell and members of the board. I first want to celebrate my CNI teammates from CTE on an amazing presentation highlighting the fantastic things that they do on a daily basis on behalf of our students. As I am here to convey Ms. Ferguson's message, I will ask that you allow me to read so that I can convey all of her thoughts. So, schools and the district CNI team continue to keep the focus on instruction. This month, we have provided PD, held teacher leader, instructional coach, and assistant principal meetings, as well as the principals meeting. The focus for our K-5 principals was small group reading instruction, in which principals learn how to use current data to address students' needs during small group instructional time. Middle and high school principals participated in PD on effective questioning. Walkthroughs continue at all sites. This month, we focused on walkthroughs in all areas, using multiple staff and ensuring that principals were given immediate feedback. Our year-round school application period ends this week, and we will then begin working on enrollment for next year. Harnett Early College has also started their application process for next year. This month, we started kindergarten registration, and we held Kinderpalooza at Campbell University on January 25th. We had a great turnout, highlight of my year almost, and it was a very positive experience. We want to thank Mr. Abate and Ms. Gainey for coming out that day. All the schools and departments did a phenomenal job of showcasing Harnett County schools, and we want to extend a huge thanks to the Beta Club members from Western Harnett High School and Harnett Central High School for helping us out. Harnett County Schools is partnering with the Poe Center to pursue a 21st Century Community Learning Center cohort grant. In the Poe Center, once the Poe Center learns of being awarded, it will fund an after-school tutoring program at Harnett Central Middle and Harnett Central High School. This month, we continue to focus on the new science standards with additional PD provided by the North Carolina State Science House, and this will be for 5th and 8th grade teachers. We held EC training for all principals on January 30th, and it was we received very positive feedback. High schools will be busy with course registration for the upcoming 25-26 school year. We recently held our science fair on January 30th, and it was a great success. That's due to a big thanks to Ms. Wendy Nash and all the members of her team who helped out. Our schools and the science lead teachers at each site did a great job this year. We also received word this week that we received funding for a grant with the Southern Regional Educational Board. This grant will provide PD to middle school math teachers, and we're excited as now we have the grant funds on each side of the district to provide quality PD to support our middle school math teachers. And finally, coming up this month, we have the Middle School First Lego League at Western Harnett Middle School on February 17th, and the District Spelling Bee at Irwin Elementary on February 21st. So thank you for receiving those updates. Do you have any questions that I may need to pass along?
Are there questions for either Ms. Stevens or for her to pass along?
What was our outcome on middle school year-round?
I do not have that information with me at this time, but I can ask Ms. Ferguson to share that.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Ms. Thompson with Human Resources update.
Good evening, Chairman Powell and members of the board. A quick update on vacancies in the district.
We are kind of hovering around the same numbers that we had last year. This same time, we have 25 really base positions compared to 26 last year. We have 20 EC compared to 17 last year at this time. I will say that I do think we've added some positions there. So as children arrive and require certain assistance in areas, and our classified numbers are just down slightly to 30 from 35 this time last year. I do know that, especially in custodial services, Mr. Pearson has shared, they've had a real increase there as well. We do have some fully hired sites: Anger, Buies Creek, Dunn Middle, North Harnett, Star, Triton, and the Harnett County Early College are fully hired. So I want to give them a positive shout out. Also, to continue our feedback for NESIS, and that's the evaluation system that principals use at the sites. Just so you know, at this time of the year, we should be right along 2,100 observations done, and the district has completed 1,900, so we're very close to that goal. We have a 93.6% completion rate, and I think that is amazing, because you do have to factor into those numbers for some sites that teachers may be out on maternity leaves, or they may have been out with the flu during a certain time. So some things are unavoidable when they go in to do observations. They can't get everyone in. I will say, just to tell you though, we have a number of sites who have a 90 to 99% completion rate. That's Anderson Creek, Anger, Coates, Dunn Elementary, Dunn Middle, Irwin, Harnett Central High School, Highland Elementary, North Harnett, Overhills Elementary, Overhills Middle, and Triton High School. 100%, and our principals are very competitive. They will email us back lickety-split if we have made a mistake. Ben Haven, Boone Trail, Coast Irwin Middle, the Harnett County Early College, Harnett Central Middle School, Highland Middle School, Johnsonville, Lillington, Shawtown, Lafayette Elementary, Northwest Harnett, and Star have 100% completion rate. So I want to shout those folks out. To continue to share some happenings, as you know, we have extended some employment offers to some international teachers through Participate and EPI, and these candidates have been added to a hiring website that we maintain in the HR department, and principals have access to this in the spring, where they can interview recordings, resumes, and intro videos. Schools who have a disproportionate number of who have alternative licensed teachers are given first priority to that website before we open it up for the rest of the district, in order to help support those sites for hiring. This month, our international staff remains engaged in professional learning, both at the secondary and elementary level. We are providing topics that they have asked for help with, and on February the 10th, our first-year secondary teachers will have the opportunity to learn about classroom management from a panel of veteran international teachers. This is a valuable leadership opportunity, not only for the experienced teachers, but a meaningful learning opportunity for our new teachers as well. On the February 12th, elementary teachers will explore small group instruction with the support of district-level instructional coaches. Bus classes were held last week at Gentry Elementary, and we can have 50 in our class and 50 attended, which is great. That meant we've had 100% using all of our spots, and 35 passed the test on the first time, so that is significant. And out of those, 4 have already received their DOT physicals and their bus permits, so that is good news. I will say that Kelly Fry from my department at that same time participated in that class this time, and took the test herself to see how difficult it was, and she has added that is a difficult test to pass, especially on the air brakes. So she did that too to help. She does a tremendous job going out and supporting those people and encouraging them and cheering them on through that difficult process. So she wanted to know how they felt, and I have to commend her for that and her leadership in that area. The last few employees from the September class, I just tell you this to keep you updated on how long it takes. So the last few employees from the September class will finish their bus driver training mid-March. Employees from that class will begin their bus driver training in March, continuing through the end of the year into the summer. So it just is a long process to get your bus license still. I have said, I will mention it again, we do not have a shortage in hiring bus drivers. We have a training issue across our state on working on training bus drivers in a timely manner.
A DMV problem.
A DMV problem, yes, sir, we do. If we could train people in it, this is an older model, I will say, that worked when there was not as much turnover, and now that there's more turnover, we cannot keep up with the amount of trainers. We have one trainer in the district, and so we just cannot keep up. We're also excited to host 20 full-time student teachers this semester from various universities who we hope will join us as full-time teachers next school year. We also have 70 college students who will be completing short field experiences in our classrooms this semester. We hosted a virtual information session for alternatively licensed teachers eligible for the North Carolina Teaching Fellows on January 30th, and we will continue to share this information with candidates during our individual licensure meetings. We are also planning to send out intent forms for the 25-26 school year. It doesn't seem possible that could be where we are, but that is where we are. And the recruitment and retention team has started recruiting for our Growing Greatness program. You know, this is our future teacher program. Last week they were at Harnett Central and Triton, and this week they will visit Western and Overhills High, and they're also planning to visit both sites of the early college. Here they also share the North Carolina Teaching Fellows information. I'm so excited to say this year we have 25 returning students to our Growing Greatness program. You know, so that's really future teachers for us in Harnett County. And so I hope that we can at least bring on 20, and wouldn't that be great if we could be close to 50 on our Growing Greatness group when we started out with about 8 in this first year. So that's tremendous growth over time, I think. I want to make special note of this because this always happens to come up as a question in the spring. But our recruitment and retention team already is conducting one-on-one licensure meetings with teachers right now that do not have a clear license for whatever reason. You know, some of them are alternative licensed and they have to complete requirements all along the way to maintain that license year to year. There's always questions about people saying they didn't know about this process and they were confused, but we are meeting with them one-on-one and taking time to really talk with each one of them to make sure they know the requirements, the deadlines, and that we get an update on their progress toward those goals. So they'll be ready for their contracts in the spring, which is what everybody is worried about this time of year. And we have our regular kind of PD that's going on. We work with mentors on a monthly basis. You know, Ms. Washington conducts all of our national board cohort meetings, and we already mentioned those international trainings that we have, but one of the things we're very excited about, we do have a podcast for beginning teachers that our folks work on as an alternative way to reach our newest teachers in this age of podcasts and such things. So they work on that as an alternative way to reach folks with PD. That is all I have. If you have any questions for me, I'm glad to answer them.
Okay. Are there questions for Mrs. Thompson? Thank you, Ms. Thompson.
Thank you.
Moving along, we have student services update and Mr. White.
Good evening, Chairman Powell and members of the board. Inside of your board package, you will find the Star Academy report and the district release reassignment report ending on January the 31st, 2025. In this month's board package, you'll recognize that there weren't any transfers that were approved between our last board session, but there will definitely be a slew of them coming up for the future months, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. National School Counselor Week, February the 3rd through the 7th, is recognized as National School Counselor Week. National School Counselor Week is a time to recognize and celebrate the invaluable contributions of our 60-plus school counselors across Harnett County schools. Throughout the week, we've asked our schools to highlight the essential role counselors play in supporting the academic, social, and emotional growth of our students. From providing guidance during times of uncertainty to fostering a positive school environment, our district school counselors are dedicated to helping students succeed. And on that note, I did want to speak about a few celebrations. School counselor Beth Fortner at Highland Middle School was named the North Central Region 3 Vice President for the North Carolina School Counselors Association. And school social worker Lakeisha Searles, who works at Coates Elementary and Coates Irwin Middle School, was named the Masters of School Social Work Student of the Year at Fayetteville State University, and she'll be speaking at the FSU commencement ceremony in May. And so we got some folks that are doing some amazing things, so I wanted to shout them out this evening. Future Ready Leadership Training for potential student services leaders actually starts tomorrow. We've invited Dr. Stephen Peters and Mrs. Cheryl Fuller to come and work with that cohort. future student services leaders. And so we have about 20 people that we'll be training over the next few months to see their capacity and get them to understand what we do in student services in hopes of building some leaders for the future here in our district. So we're excited to welcome them tomorrow and begin that cohort. The window has opened for all 25-26 school year in-county transfers. That window will be open from February 1st through April the 1st. As a reminder, for in-county transfers, families do not need to complete the application every year if they've been approved previously. Families approved for transfer are allowed to stay at their reassigned school through the highest grade available at the school. And so we mainly are processing now transfers for students going to 6th grade and 9th grade and rising kindergartners. And so that process has started. A lot of applications already. Another congratulatory note, Harnett Central High School's Color Guard has been asked to present the colors at this year's statewide NC Purple Star ceremony in Raleigh this May. Members of the Color Guard have also been asked to participate in a roundtable to shed light on the unique challenges that military-connected students face when navigating transitions, the support systems that made a difference, and how the resources we have available in Harnett County schools has helped them ensure academic success. So that's a huge honor for the Color Guard at Harnett Central High School to be selected. They were selected among the eligible districts who received the North Carolina Purple Star to present at that ceremony. And so they got a nice letter today from the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction that was forwarded to Mrs. Jones. And so we're definitely excited about them. As far as discipline in schools is concerned, last Friday, the first meeting of our Discipline in Schools Committee was held. The committee, mixed with school administrators and directors, is pledged to work together in creating a safe, consistent, respectful, and supportive learning environment for all of our students. Our initial goal will be focusing on consistent discipline standards to ensure that all students have the opportunity to thrive academically and socially. So if you're familiar with kind of what we did with our strategic plan, we're going to start with our directors and school administrators, and then as we kind of go through this process, we will get some input from families as well with regards to how we can do better with our discipline practices across the district. And so we've talked about it before. We've now kind of put the plan in action. I'm excited about what will come from that group as a result. So that concludes my student services report for this evening, unless there are any questions.
Are there questions for Mr. White?
The group on discipline, that's going to bring consistency to the county.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir. And so what we're looking at, based on our conversation Friday, I shared vision with the group about how we want to look at being consistent elementary, middle, and high school, especially with schools in attendance areas, making sure it just doesn't look different, right? What happens at Harnett Central should not be vastly different as far as what we do at Overhills High School, for example. And so the principals and directors are dedicated to doing that, and really the part that I look forward to is the community stakeholder piece when we get to that a little bit later on in the semester to kind of hear what they have to say. In conjunction with the teacher working condition survey that we looked at last year, and our teachers speaking about how the disruptions in classrooms are becoming too much, this consistency will help us be able to communicate that message a whole lot better, I believe, than we have before in the district. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Are there other questions? Thank you, Mr. White. Moving along, we have our financial services report, and that would be Mr. Cox.
Thank you, Chair Powell. Board members, here are a few things we've got going on in finance for the month of February. We've begun our budget development process for fiscal year 26. You'll hear a little more about that in action items. W-2s are sent to school sites on January 24th and mailed to substitutes and any employee that terminated service from Harnett County Schools prior to that date. They are available via Timekeeper and Link for anybody who wishes to have a digital copy or misplaces their paper copy, so it is available there for them. And I mentioned this in case you hear of anyone who was expecting a W-2 that did not receive one, please let us know and we'll investigate. Hopefully that's not the case, but just in case you hear anything, direct them to us and we'll make sure they get their W-2. 1099s were mailed out last week. And same thing, if you hear anyone that says they did not get their 1099, please let us know and we'll look into that for them as well. With the 25-26 school calendar being adopted last month, our payroll team's working on developing our payroll calendar for staff for the 25-26 year right now. And the last thing, we submitted our impact aid application last week. Currently, we have roughly the same numbers we did last year, which is around 1,600 applicants that qualified us for impact aid, which is about 300 less than we've had in prior years. However, we revamped our process. We've hired a district military liaison, and there are 2 additional processes that she's going to be working through to see if she can get some more surveys returned back to help us bring those numbers up to get more money for the district, and we will be allowed to submit an amended application as long as we do it prior to June 30th. And that concludes my report, unless you have any other questions for me.
Okay. Are there questions for Mr. Cox? Thank you, Mr. Cox. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, the chairman votes aye.
Abate, aye.
Gainey, aye.
Motion carries. Moving along now to action items, and action item A, review and consider approval of budget amendments, and that's Mr. Cox.
Thank you, Chair Powell. Let me get to my right screen here. I've got the wrong one pulled up. All right. Here, what you have there in your packet is a budget amendment for the second quarter for fiscal year '25. Also in your packet, you have changes that generated those numbers by program report code as well, and I'll just do an overview of it unless you have any specific questions. Our state public school fund, which is our state funding, is amended to be $158,085,290, which is an increase of $2.2 million. Our local current expense fund remains at $33,297,203. Our federal programs fund, $27,806,213, an increase of $302,000. Our capital outlay fund at $2,547,288, which is an increase of $125,000. Our school nutrition fund remains unchanged at $12,093,500. Our Dunn Special District Fund remains unchanged at $459,869. And our local restricted expense fund is $13,394,281, which is an increase of $1,076,339. Total amended budget, $247,683,644, which is an increase of $3,693,744. Happy to take any specific questions you may have.
Are there any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the budget amendment as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, chairman votes aye.
Abate, aye.
Gainey, aye.
Here, aye.
Motion carries. Okay, next we have review and consider approval of the budget calendar, and back to Mr. Cox.
Thank you, Chair Powell. Board members, you have in your packet there a proposed budget calendar for fiscal year 25-26. As you see, the first date there is presenting the budget calendar to the Board of Education, which is tonight. March 13th, at your work session, we'll have further budget discussions. April 7th, 2025, plan to present the superintendent's budget to you as the Board of Education. We do not have a work session during April, which is why I have April/May to be determined for an adoption of the budget. I will say last year, we talked about the budget in March, presented in April, and at that same meeting, we approved the budget, so we may not need additional meeting for that, but that's just the way it's laid out currently if we do need it. May 5th, the Board of Education budget will be delivered to the county commissioners for their consideration. And we typically hold a joint meeting with the Board of Commissioners in May, and that will be determined after we have further conversations with the Board of Commissioners. And then no later than June 30th, the Board of Education will adopt a budget resolution, which most of the time the state does not have a budget in place at that time, so we'll do a continual resolution at that time. Happy to take any specific questions on the proposed budget calendar for fiscal year 26.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there additional discussion or questions for Mr. Cox? Hearing none, chairman votes aye.
Abate, aye.
Gainey, aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have review and consider approval of summer program dates in the summer school plan, and that would be Ms. Stevens.
Yes. All right, Chairman Powell and members of the board, I'm going to ask if you will see your board packet for the summer program dates that Ms. Ferguson has submitted. It has the list of all the summer programs that are planned. I do want to point out that these dates have been shared, and there has been discussion with all principals, and also there's been consultation with the finance department as well about these dates. So one thing that we are here tonight to request is your approval of the overall summer program dates. And then in addition to that, in your packet, you have a summer program plan for the traditional calendar school and the year-round calendar school that is specific to the traditional summer school that requires your approval of the plan. And so the first thing is the dates of all the programs, and the second thing would be the plan for the traditional schools and the plan for the year-round school. So I am asking that you request approval of these two items, but I can entertain questions to the best of my ability.
I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve summer programs as well as calendars as presented.
Have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion or questions from Ms. Stevens?
Question.
Chair recognizes Ms. Gainey.
Thank you. On the summer program plans, I noticed there's a statement that has been added. Students who do not attend any summer program instruction may not participate in summer program testing. Is that something new from 2 years ago when I was there?
I believe that was the practice last year, so I don't think that's a new, but I think my understanding of that rationale is so that those who attend and receive that additional remediation and support are the ones who, are the focus, and their time is appreciated by way of the testing. But I can ask Ms. Ferguson to follow up on that before it's approved.
If you don't mind, because I know the state always says that even if they don't attend, that they could still test. And maybe I missed it last year when it was there, but if we stated that way, then we would probably have a challenge from someone, because a child may be sick, may be out of town or something, and may have been 1 or 2 points from that level 3 or level 4. So I would like that.
Okay, well, I will clarify that it's if they don't attend at all.
Right.
It's not that they don't attend the full program. It's if they don't show.
Right.
For any dates of instruction.
Correct.
But I can clarify that.
Yeah, because
certainly.
the state still does, they say that either way, that,
Okay.
Even if a student doesn't attend at all, unless something has changed, so if you will.
Let me check, because I do know the person is listening.
Okay.
So she may, if she's away from her family at this moment, but we'll see.
All right.
We'll come back to that one.
I was
Okay?
going to say yes,
Okay.
that's fine.
All right, as we, do you want to pause on that and I move to the
We have
next
a
one? Or how
motion.
would you-
We have a motion. Is there further discussion or questions from Ms. Stevens? Okay. Chairman votes aye.
Abate, aye.
Gainey, no.
Okay, the motion carries. Okay. And now we have, wait a minute. Okay, review and consider approval of procedure for exam. Let me try that again. Review and consider approval of procedure for exam exemption beginning with the 2025-26 school year. Ms. Stevens.
Yes. Also in your packet, you have from Ms. Ferguson the proposed guidelines for exam exemption to begin for grades 9 through 12 in the upcoming 25-26 school year. And that has been provided for your review and consideration for approval to begin in 25-26.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve as presented.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion?
I've just got a couple things, or one thing really.
Yes, sir. Chair recognizes Mr. Abate.
I am thankful for countywide guidelines, because last year I received a considerable amount of phone calls about being eligible to take an exam or not take an exam or be exempt, and this is going to really cut down on the phone calls regarding exam exemptions for next year. So I'm very thankful for this.
I agree with that, and I cannot take credit because I'm a director who works with grades K through 5, but I have heard many discussions about this topic. So I do agree that it's going to be in our best interest to have that clarification. And I did want to provide what clarification I have at this point for Ms. Gainey. We do, that's the way it has been done in the past, and a student has to participate in the intervention according to RAC. That's my understanding. Thank you.
Are there additional questions? Hearing none, the chairman votes aye.
Abate, aye.
Gainey, aye.
The motion is approved. Okay, action item E, review and consider approval of the 2025-2026 school calendar for Lafayette year-round school. Mr. Pearson.
Chairman Powell, members of the board, last month you approved the 25-26 traditional calendar. That serves as the springboard then to develop the year-round calendar based on number of teacher work days and student days. So Ms. Ferguson and her team have gone through and calculated the needs there, and this is the proposed calendar for Lafayette year-round school.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we approve the 2025-26 school calendar for Lafayette year-round elementary school as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion?
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Chair recognizes Ms. Gainey.
Okay. Is it possible for the parents' sake that we could add the progress report and the report card issue dates on the calendar?
Oh, yeah, yes, ma'am, that's easy.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is there additional discussion or questions? Chairman votes aye.
Abate, aye.
Gainey, aye with the corrections.
And the motion carries. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143, 31811, A1 and A3 and A6 to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel files under GS 115C 321, to consider matters relating to initial employment of an individual employee, and to consult with the board's attorney regarding HB and JB versus Harnett County Board of Ed 24 EDC 04834, and to preserve the attorney-client privilege.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Chair votes aye.
Abate, aye.
Gainey, aye.
Motion carries. We're now in closed session.